The story in this article is from, it was updated in December 19th 2014. Now I chose this article, there were several, but this was the the best article. Hold on a second, I gotta check on my dog real quick. Have returned. Okay, sorry about that. Needed to check on Pablo. Yeah, so this is from 2014, but it's the best article to kind of get a little get our dip our toes into the whole world of elongated skulls. Okay. Alrighty. Oh my lord. Enough with the ads. Okay, I hope that's not playing, but we'll just deal with that. All right, Mark. Oh my lord. Mark Laplume, not even sure if I'm saying his last name right, is an artist and independent researcher who has been engaged in making reconstruction drawings of ancient people with elongated skulls. This cat up here, um, right there. I have already had the pleasure of showcasing his remarkable work in a gallery on fetus and children with elongated heads. Like I said, this is gonna get a little kinky. And in a post on visualization of ancient populations, Mark's reconstructions were also illustrated in an article on suppressed evidence challenging artificial cranial deformation paradigm as the only way of explaining elongated skulls. Mark now shares some of his insights into the mystery of elongated skulls with the researchers of ancient origins. Okay, Mark, how did you become interested in elongated skulls? Why did you decide to start reconstructing the appearance of these skulls? In 2016, when I first downloaded Google Earth, I looked around at places I knew and then made a beeline to the south end of Lake Titicaca. I was blown away by what I saw. The ruins of something vast uncovered every hilltop for miles in all directions. I knew something incredible had gone on there, but I put it out of my mind after finding no interest by anyone I tried to share it with. So this is what he saw on Google Earth. About 6 years later, I saw one of Brian Forrester's posts on elongated skulls. Now, um, a quick side note: Brian Forrester has been very at the forefront talking about and doing a lot of research on elongated skulls, and he was how I came to find out about elongated skulls. And when I was looking at this, I'm like, man, this is crazy. I didn't even know this was something that was even remotely possible. And what's kind of funny about it is that when you learn about him and you read up on him, it turns out he's not even like a medical doctor. He just like became hooked onto this, and he has been like at the forefront of really pushing the elongated skulls, doing a lot of research on it. He lives in Peru, where you can actually find a lot of museums, these small little side, roadside museums, and they have elongated skulls in them. They're everywhere. But let's get back to the article. About 6 years later, I saw one of Brian Forster's posts showing elongated skulls. I was lucky enough to reach him and talk a little bit about what I was looking at. Looking at the images of the skulls made me curious as to who these people were and how they looked. There were almost no interpretations of their appearance and almost nothing about their history. My monetary sense of inclusion made me wonder what I could do to help him to advance our understanding of these people. Although I had not picked up a pencil in 14 years, I felt sure I could draw them to recreate their faces to see what they looked like. And those are the muses. The muses were speaking to our friend here. I'd quit art school but continued to pursue art in various ways for 18 years, culminating in working on large sculptural projects in the mid-90s, at which point I stopped drawing and making art. Yeah, the 90s was a rough time for everybody. Meanwhile, back to the skulls. I started doing online and archival research, collecting the images of elongated skulls and drawings. To date, I have done over 5,000 drawings and collected more than 8,000 photos of skulls, mummies, and related artifacts. While working with this incredible data and making drawings, the lack of understanding history and myth of what these people were and how they looked did not lend a sense of legitimacy to the attempt. There were so many unanswered questions. I wondered if perhaps this is why so few people could involve themselves with this kind of project. It's like a wall so big, you don't notice it or you don't want to admit it's there. Now, what you're seeing above is Brian Forrester holding one of the elongated skulls. Which, it's... okay, and here is, I believe his name is Mark. Here are his drawings of what these people would have looked like. Now, put on your tinfoil hat for a little bit. And just imagine what these could possibly be. And what I mean by that is like, they talk about, and I'm not sure if they talk about it in this article, but there are ways of making the skull elongated. Like there were procedures that the people would do to actually make people's skulls elongated. But also during Brian Forrester's research and analyzing these skulls, there were some skulls of these people that were not, they were natural, meaning they were born with the elongated skull as opposed to at being a child, their skull being pressured and forced into a design. Maybe I'll grab that article so you can see that interpretation of how they would copy that, the elongated skulls. But let's continue. Okay, so yeah, Mark's artistic interpretations of elongated skulls from Bolivia at the top and Paracas, Peru on the bottom. Yeah, and Paracas, Peru is where Brian Forrester lives and does a lot of his elongated skull research. Okay, Mark. When I began this study in 2011, the count of skulls was known to very few people who were actually aware of this. They estimated that there were a few hundreds of skulls, But through web searches, I found literally thousands of skulls. There are also about 1,000 skulls in Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Chile, which are not yet accessible to the public. Even more skulls remain unknown as they have not been photographed, or at least are not publicly accessible, and therefore not available for public viewing in Chile or Peru. Okay, look at these skulls. Now these are the interpretations of what these skulls look like. I I don't know. Could you imagine seeing someone like that? Like you're just kind of minding your own business and you pop around a corner and there's a person with an elongated skull. All right. And these are from a museum in Romania. Okay, so all right, I don't want to jump ahead, but you have to ask yourself, okay? Take a second and just take off your tinfoil hat, pop on your critical thinking hat, and ask yourself, okay, how is it that there are elongated skulls in Europe? Just take some time and ask yourself, how and why are there elongated skulls in Europe? Now, I don't want to jump the gun. I'm trying really hard not to jump the gun right now. But it's just like, you just ask yourself, like, how bizarre is that? And it said Romania, Bulgaria, Peru, Bolivia. You got to ask yourself, like, what does that mean? What what type of civilization was here, prior to us? And the reason why I say that is, you don't hear of, you don't hear about in the history books. And I mean, I would take those history books with a grain of, with a large grain of salt, because let's be real here. Our history books are straight up propaganda and lies. But that's a story for another time. But essentially, what I'm saying is, um, that you have to really ask yourself, like, what is the real true history? Because the fact that there are, and what's even more funny about it, right? And this goes back to, like, whether it's about the mysterious rocket that landed on the moon back in 21, I think that was, or in 2018 or 2019, the guy who was skiing in upstate Buffalo, New York, and wound it up in California in 3 days. Yeah. There's these, why is it not, national news? Why is it not national news that there are elongated skulls in Europe? Why is it not national news that there's a pyramid in Greece? And this is what I mean. It's just, it kind of boggles my mind. But at the same time, uh, it makes me not surprised, because why would they want such knowledge to be going out there? I mean, it would be kind of crazy if we were to find out that at one point in our history there were humans with naturally born elongated skulls that roamed the entire planet. you know, nobody talks about you know the Chinese and how there used to be Chinese that were black, but we'll touch on that in another live stream. I'm not going to get into that craziness right now, but it just makes you wonder. So here we go. Academic researchers are generally dismissive of elongated. Academic researchers are they are another branch of the establishment, of the military, industrial, corporate, pharmaceutical complex. They see them as nothing but artificially deformed human skulls, a result of deliberate head binding, yes, to achieve a flattened shape. And there's an article about that. Maybe we might look into that to give you the other side of the perspective on elongated skulls. In addition to this artificial head modification thesis, they sometimes also cite a medical problem called hydrocephalia. Why? Why do you think academics maintain this view? What is their evidence? Oh, that's a good point. I mean, I've never heard of this medical problem. Elongated skulls are never spoken about without terms of head binding. It's the hole in the bucket refrain from which there is no escape. But now there are also those, and I mean not only researchers, but obviously people who've woken up to the layers of lies we've been fed since the get-go. Many who look at the evidence of anomalies in the skulls are not satisfied with believing in the cranial modification dogma. People like Brian Forrester, Lord Pye, Graham Hancock, and not forget Michael Cremo, examine and record evidence rather than the stories made by earlier researchers, textbooks, and other gatekeepers of conventional perspectives. The point is to keep asking questions. And listen to Graham Hancock. He's got amazing books, Fingerprints of the Gods. He's the one that was pushing the Younger Dryas impact. They called him a fringe researcher, all of this, and then he turns out to be right about the Younger Dryas impact. Listen to Randall Carlson. But the thing with the elongated skulls, and I've watched videos, I've seen, Brian Forrester take these skulls to, actual medical examiners and within universities that specialize in bones and in skulls. And, a lot of them are coming back as being natural. Like they were, they came out looking like this. So, and I don't think there actually is a lot of archaeological evidence about the head binding. I know some did practice it, but I don't think it was as pronounced as the academic researchers are claiming it to be. All right. The verbal portrayal of binding is a collective projection. The reality is that 99% of those who speak about it have never examined an elongated skull firsthand. I don't know how it is so prevalent except that it is repeated all the time. The usual approach to elongated skulls is dominated by concepts, but the skull shapes are not linguistic. They are morphologic. My work has been an attempt at making a soft rebuttal by making public my process of looking at hand drawing, which involves seeing. And he makes a good point. You gotta be there. You gotta look at it. You gotta look at it with your own two eyes, rather than looking at it from a picture or a drawing or a reference or a description, I should say. I don't rely on classical authorities. In my work, the skulls are doing the talking. Talking is a projection, while seeing is receiving. And and no one can answer questions which you alone can actually experience at a level of seeing. Good point. This is why my approach to elongated skulls is not conditioned by dogma. Elongated equals deformed. And good point. And also it's kind of like, they said earlier, I forgot how many thousands of skulls they have found, but are we going to then say that, you know, all of these people were deformed and they had, genetic, deformities or mutations? I mean, that's, especially if you've never looked at one or actually went into person. Neither have I, but I'm just saying, like, he makes a really good point. All right, and this is Mark's interpretation of the Detmold child, to the right here. And this is a question to Mark. Are there any significant skulls that leave no doubt the artificial deformation paradigm is wrong? How are these skulls different? Are there differences among elongated skulls themselves? Is it possible to group them according to shape and other features? To your first question, take a look at these skulls exhibit at an Inca museum in Peru. Okay. There are problems with the official story, which dates back to Hippocrates, defining Huns as having been bound. It claims that all skulls are merely artificially modified skulls of the modern-looking humans. The fact is, many had larger eyes as well as 25% larger brain case than modern humans. They also had higher ears, up to 1/2 an inch higher than normal. These are Paracas skulls next to human skulls. Look at that. Cranial structures are different. There are mysterious holes at the back of the skull, an extra plate above the occipital known as the Inca bone. And this is it right here. The Paracas skulls have variations in occipital bone compared to modern day human skulls. Okay. There is a problem with infants too, which have been found in Peru and the Andes with tooth set of a 3-year-old modern human child. Most parents will know that molar teeth in an infant-sized toddler is unheard of. Okay, yeah, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute. How can an infant have a 3-year-old human's mouth? Oh, that's bizarre. That's really bizarre. I wonder what that means. Okay, infant skull from Cusco, Peru, and infant skull from Tiwanaku, Bolivia. Okay. in South America, there are different categories or types. It does seem so, but I don't get into Spanish terminology. For me, it's just another way to separate from seeing the skull's individual characteristics. I tend to say that they that they had range, like the unexplained redhead that appears randomly in a family line. Yes. Similarly, the elongated skulls, the Huns, were wild in this way. They had a greater range, it seems, of morphological expression. And if I recall, in some of I might pull up Brian Forrester's Instagram page because he just has pictures of elongated skulls, and it made me think about two things. It made me think about a picture he posted on his Instagram of a person. This was a living person sitting at a computer, and they had a elongated skull. And he literally put, "Is this real or fake?" Like he put the question up because the photo, it's so hard to tell whether it's real or fake. And then it reminds me of a story that I heard. Do I want to tell that story right now? Yeah, I'll tell. No, I'll hold on to that. It'll come back to me. I'll hold on to that. Okay, and this is image of the different types of elongated skulls. Now, keep in mind, not all of these are infant skulls. Some of these look like they might be adults or even teenagers. In terms of the connections between the Americas and Eurasia, elongated skulls from these areas are so similar that sometimes the only way to distinguish them from one another is by the background or the patina on the skulls. Okay. Are you relying on any anthropological or forensic methods of facial reconstruction, or more generally, how do you visualize the appearance of these skulls? Organs come together to form the overall body of a head. Drawing the same skull from different directions tends to smooth out mistakes. The form arises in unison with these elements of bone, muscle, and skin. Mainly bones define much of a person's face, so accuracy, we would hope, is inevitable. How do you fund your research? What are your future plans? Let's see. Anything interesting? Because I have to keep in mind, this article is from 2014, so I'd rather make sure we hit the hot spots. Yeah, okay, that was it. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, and I've seen videos, and maybe I'll link one video in the, yeah, I'll link it in the description. It's a 24-minute long video, and it essentially, um, it is they do